We've all been at that cocktail party or a family event when somebody asks, so what is it again that you do? It can get awkward. Megan C sent a video request saying, I struggle with explaining what I do without taking more than 5 minutes. I hear you, Megan. I'd love to be able to just answer the question clearly and naturally. Megan, this one's for you. Now, I haven't always, but actually like explaining what it is that I do and communicating that with others. So today I'm gonna give you 5 tips to be able to explain your maybe sometimes weird job to other people. Welcome back to another episode here on the Ashlyn Writes channel. I'm Ashlyn. I'm a calligrapher and copywriter for creative entrepreneurs like you. I make new videos just like this every single week. So if you want to hit subscribe to be in line to know when those come out, go ahead and do that. And with that said, let's roll into this week's. I also created a freebie worksheet to help you go through today's content. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, hop down below and you can grab that freebie. Now, these 5 tips to crafting your elevator pitch of sorts are definitely not the only way to figuring out how to describe what you do. This is my method, but it has worked for me and worked for hundreds of my students, so I hope that it helps you out as well. Last housekeeping thing, I'm an introverted extrovert, and even though I am a copywriter and work in communications and marketing, I have totally botched this question like in front of my husband, and he's called me out on it and said, don't you do this for a living? So I figured that me giving you tips would be helpful so you can see from somebody who has completely messed it up and finally found a system that works. Step 1, gather the essentials. First up, in describing what you do for a living, we need to know a few things. So I want you to gather these 4 things. Your name and a rough draft title of what it is that you do, more on that in step 3. What problem it is that you solve, who you help, and how you uniquely solve it. Now, you know your name, but I know title can be a little sticky, so we're gonna get to that more in step 3. But if the other little things trip you up, then I'm gonna tell you what I tell my students. If you can't tell me why you do what you do, the way you do it, who you do it for, better or different than somebody else who does the same thing that you do, then there's something that we need to park out a little bit on. It is so important that you, as the CEO of your creative small business, figure this out. So if that's something that you haven't figured out before, I'd invite you to hop down below. Each year, twice a year, I teach students how to figure this out inside my Copywriting for Creatives program, and you can hop on the wait list there. Now back to these 4 things I've asked you to gather here in step 1. I'm gonna go through 3 examples real quick. If they help you or you wanna dig into them more, just hit pause and we'll go through them. Here's an example for a calligrapher. Here's an example of what an essential oils business owner may say. And lastly, here is an example of what a gift box company owner would use. Okay, step 2, prep your story. You've likely heard it, but our brains are wired for story. We absolutely, as humans, adore story. So we as people instantly tie ourselves to stories when we hear them. So if you're giving your elevator pitch or communicating with someone what you do, why not weave in some story and make that connection point with them? This is also a big way to not sound robotic and actually sound like a human. Now, remember why people ask you this in the first place. They want to connect with you, right? That's why I ask you to gather those things back in step 1. I wanted to remind you that you do have a winding story that's probably led you to what you do now. The anatomy of your elevator pitch's story is in things 2, 3, and 4 that I told you to gather back in step 1. Here in step 2, link these 3 things together. Sometimes it helps me to start with the end in mind. What's the happily ever after, or what's the end result of you working with people? Again, I have 3 examples for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. A website designer may say, I make websites organized and beautiful so small businesses can better serve their customers. The essential oil business owner may say something to the effect of, moms that want to use safer cleaning stuff usually don't trust that they work as well as the more toxic options do. So I provide weekly online essential oil classes and tools with my biochemistry background. And our gift box owner may say something like, I saw brides in the DC area trying to show off our city with their hotel guest gift bags, so I curate and deliver custom gift boxes for weddings with only locally sourced products. Again, we as humans love things that are simple, clear, and easy to understand, and using story in your elevator pitch is one way you can do that. Step number 3, the cocktail party test. Maybe for you, depending on your family, this is the family Christmas party test, but what I want you to do here in the 3rd step is picture saying this in front of real, live, actual human beings. So many times you hear an elevator pitch and it sounds so awkward or so cheesy, right? So what I want you to do now is look at what you have assembled and say it out loud. Does anything make you totally sound like a tool? Choose your words carefully. Now, in step 1, I told you we were going to talk a little bit here in step 3 about your title. I want you to think here if the title is appropriate or if you need to maybe change it up a little bit. I call this out because I was recently doing some research for a client, a copywriting client of mine, and she works with online influencers. And in our conversations and in discussions, I was listening to them say things like, sometimes when they tell others they are an online influencer, people have certain opinions about that line of work or that niche or industry. Some women prefer to call themselves content creators, while others were perfectly fine owning that they work in the influencing niche. So just see what I mean, kind of look at the words that you're saying and see if you can get a gauge on the room. Another example of this is what I do, copywriting. So many times when I say that word, especially in groups outside of my bubble and what I do, they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I usually just super simplify it and I say that I help write marketing words. Bottom line here, don't waste people's time with words that don't really matter to them. The more you talk and fill space, it can make you sound more insecure, and jargon also makes you sound a little bit insecure. This all goes hand in hand with step 4, know your audience. I love this because a lot of times we completely forget about this part of our elevator pitch. Again, think about why people are asking you this question in the first place. People don't like a sales pitch, right? They can sniff it out from miles away. I personally think if you're really clear about what you do and state the problem that you solve, remember how you gathered that, people are wise enough to realize if this is a problem that they have and they need your help, or know somebody who needs your help, or if it's something they don't really need. You be the judge of how much context to bake in or not, and how advanced people are with what it is that you do and the words that you're choosing to say. We need to make our elevator pitches more about the audience than you, okay? So again, think about the goal that they're even asking you in the first place. More examples. New friends at a creative conference. Why would they be asking you what they do? Well, they're probably trying to find somebody that they want to hang out with for the rest of the day, somebody that they want to sit with, somebody that they want to network with. Your grandparents, great aunts, and uncles, when they're asking you this, they probably just want to make sure that you are on the right track in life, that you enjoy what you're doing, and that you're getting paid for what you do. So you may choose here to be more simplified or leave out some details unless they ask for more. The last example comes from one I've experienced lately, a big group of people on a tour group, and they ask you what it is that you do. Now, their goal in asking you is probably just to be polite, right? Just to strike up some small talk. But in knowing my audience, I know that these people come from a lot of different businesses, backgrounds, and niches. So I maybe want to fall somewhere in the middle. I don't want to be too niche and specific about what it is that I do. I definitely don't want to use too much jargon, but I don't want to be so simplistic and so detailed, because there's probably some people in here who would pick up on what I'm putting down. We need to earn people's trust, and knowing your audience when you're telling them what it is that you do is one way we do this. Finally, step 5, and it's an easy one, memorize it. Like I told you, I'm an introverted extrovert, so I've had to practice things like this to get really comfortable saying them. Plus, having this memorized makes you freed up to be able to move your body when you're talking around and when you're saying this instead of sounding like a robot. One note on practicing and memorizing this is make sure that you watch your cadence when you're saying it. Sometimes if we know something for rote memory, we breeze right through it, but make sure that you pause and you slow down and you give people enough time to process what you're saying. My husband laughed at me, but before my very first creative conference, I was sitting on the back porch reading over and over again my elevator pitch because I knew I was going to be asked what I did, and I didn't want to just word vomit in front of my brand new friends. Once you pull these things together, weave in some story, start to really know and understand your audience as you choose your words carefully, and as you memorize that, you will have a set of words and phrases that you can start to use when people ask what it is that you do. Sometimes you're just gonna give them a little bit, sometimes you can give them a little bit more, and sometimes you can give them the full enchilada. It just depends on knowing your audience and how to answer their question. Hey there, I'm Ashlyn Carter. I am a calligrapher and a copywriter for creative entrepreneurs. And if I wanted to add a little more, I would add this. I worked in corporate marketing for years doing calligraphy on the side, and I noticed that a lot of creative small businesses needed help figuring out how to sell more with their words. If I wanted to give the whole thing, I would add in this. So now I offer services and tools to help creative entrepreneurs hit their sales goals so they can work from a place of a little more rest and a little less hustle. An elevator pitch like this is how you can start an even greater conversation with someone. Action step, I want to hear from you. Now I know that posting your entire elevator pitch below may be a little much, So what I want you to tell me right now is who it is that you serve. That's all I want you to do. That's one piece of the puzzle that you need to know. So I want you to declare it loud and proud and let me know in the comments below. Who is it that you specifically serve? If you found this helpful, I would appreciate a thumbs up and hit subscribe. I will see you back next week with an all new episode. Thanks again so much for your time. See you then.